Assalamu alaikum students. So today we will discuss about the connective tissue. So as you know, there are 4 types of tissues in the body. Number 1 is the epithelial tissue. Number 2 is the connective tissue. Number 3 is the muscle tissue. And number 4 is the nervous tissue. So they just look alike, like eyes. So what is the definition of the connective tissue? As you know, the tissue consists of cells, group of cells, and the extracellular matrix. So tissue consists of group of cells plus extracellular matrix. So it is a tissue which connect and support the other 3 varieties of the tissues in the body, in which cells are widely placed and the extracellular matrix is present in large amounts. So this is very necessary. The definition in which it is a tissue in which the cells are widely placed and the extracellular material is present in large amounts, and it connects and support the other 3 varieties of the tissue. So the components of the connective tissue, they are given here clearly. So you can see the cells, the extracellular matrix, it consists of the fibers. These are the fibers, and the ground substance. The third component is the ground substance. So what are the components of connective tissue? As I have told you before, it consists of cells and extracellular matrix. So the cells, various types of cells performing different functions, and the matrix, which consists of the fibers. These fibers are made up of proteins. There are 3 varieties of fibers: collagen fibers, reticular fibers, and elastic fibers. And then the ground substance. The ground substance consists of proteoglycans and the glycoproteins. So what are the functions of connective tissue? Connective tissue is found in all organs supporting the specialized tissue. It acts in binding and giving the structural support to the tissues, to the organs, to the systems, and it provides protection. Connective tissue is also a medium of transport, like the blood and the extracellular matrix, which provide medium of transport for the fluid and the gases up to the cell or the blood vessels. Another important function of the connective tissue is insulation and storage of insulation, and this is done by the fat cells present in large amounts. So it also acts to store the fat for the use for the purpose of the energy storage. And then the last is the defense of the body. So now we will first of all we will study the structure, and then we will see that how these functions are performed by the connective tissue. So now you can see here is a packing material, and this is the connective tissue which supports and pack the organs, delicate organs. Also you can see that the wires supported by the wooden pieces or the plastic pieces, how they are protected, and the blood vessels and the nerves are protected by the layers of the connective tissue around them. So if the wires, if the blood vessels and nerves running in the body are like this, so there can be kinking, and the function would they would not be able to perform function. But if they are properly placed, neatly placed with the connective tissue tying them, so their function is smooth. So the transport, as I have told you, this is the blood. So again, this is the medium of transport of the oxygen and the nutrients, and also in the tissues the extracellular matrix, it acts as the transport of medium, transport medium for the from the blood vessel to the cell and from the cell to the blood vessel. Again, the supporting function, the supporting and the insulating function is the presence of fatty tissue around the organs which give it support, and also this fatty tissue acts as energy reservoir. Now the classification of connective tissue, how we classify the connective tissue, what are the types of connective tissues. So there are three main types, broad types. Number one is the embryonic connective tissue, which is the connective tissue which is present in the embryo. So this is of two types, the mesenchymal connective tissue. This is the undifferentiated connective tissue, the mesenchymal connective tissue, and then the mucoid connective tissue. Number two is the connective tissue proper, which consists of four types: the loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue, and reticular connective tissue, and the adipose tissue. Then last is the specialized connective tissue, in which included is the cartilage, bone, and the blood. So three types: the embryonic, the connective tissue proper, and the specialized connective tissue. So cells of the connective tissue. Now we will concentrate on these cells. So there are various types of cells in the connective tissue, and these are divided into two types: the resident cells and the migrant cells. So resident cells, they originate and they remain in the connective tissue, and ultimately they die there. While the migrant cells, these are transient cells, originate in the bone marrow and enter the connective tissue to carry out specific functions. The resident cells include the fibroblast. So resident cells include the fibroblast, fibrocytes. These are the inactive form of the fibroblast. The adipocytes, the myofibroblasts, the mesenchymal stem cells. So how many types are there? There are, number one is the fibroblast, number two is the fibrocyte, number three is the adipocytes, number four is the myofibroblast, and number five is the mesenchymal stem cells. So five varieties of resident cells. Then the migrant cells. These are transient cells, originate in the bone marrow and enter the connective tissue to carry out specific functions, and these include the macrophages, the leucocytes, the plasma cells, and the mast cells. So four transient cells. Cells of the connective tissue. Now you can see here the fibroblast. This is a cell with oval nucleus, and there are cytoplasmic processes. Then the plasma cell, the typical cartwheel appearance of the nucleus. Adipose cell, signet ring appearance. You can see here that it has got a signet ring appearance. The cytoplasm is pushed to the periphery in a rim-like fashion, and the center is filled up with the fat droplet. So this is the lymphocyte with large nucleus. And then the macrophages. Macrophages are large cells with processes, and the fibrocyte. This is the inactive fibroblast, and you can see that it is a very thin cell with less cytoplasmic processes. Then the eosinophil, the neutrophil. These are the blood cells which migrate into the connective tissue, and then the small lymphocyte, and then mast cells. So mast cells have got granules in them. So this is a cell which is full of small granules. So loose areolar variety of connective tissue contains all the types of cells, all these types of cells, but other varieties contain only a single type or a combination of two or more cells. So first of all, the fibroblast cells. Now this is the abundant variety of cells in the connective tissue. The most abundant cell of the connective tissue is fibroblast cells. So they are large spindle shaped cells showing cylinder radiating processes. Okay, so this is the large spindle shaped cells, and you can see that they are showing slender radiating processes. They have got large ovoid nucleus containing a prominent nucleolus with pale staining chromatin, and these are their cytoplasm is deep basophilic. You can see here because they have got increased amount of rough endoplasmic reticulum as well as free ribosomes, and Golgi apparatus is also well developed because these fibroblasts have to synthesize proteins. So the manufacturing factory, that is the ribosomes and the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and the packaging factory is well developed in these cells. Now the fibrocytes, they are usually ovoid cells containing a small condensed rod shaped nucleus. So you can see here, this is the fibroblast, while this is the fibrocyte. So you can compare the both cells, and the fibrocytes are small condensed having rod shaped nucleus, and there are fewer cytoplasmic processes. Again, you can see these logical sections. These are the fibroblast, and these are the fibrocytes, the flattened cells. No stain in the peripheral region of the cell, and they are not possible to identify routinely under the light microscope. So myofibroblasts are the cells which with feature of both fibroblast and the smooth muscle cells, and they are observed in connective tissue during wound healing. So you can see here, these are the fibroblast and these are the myofibroblast with the properties of smooth muscles, that is they are having actin and myosin filaments, and their activity is responsible for wound closure after tissue injury. So regenerative capacity of connective tissue is observed when the tissues are destroyed by inflammation or traumatic injury. The spaces left after the death of cells which do not divide, for example the cardiac muscles, they are filled with connective tissue which form the scar, and healing of surgical incisions depend upon reparative capacity of the connective tissue. So this connective tissue, it repairs the surgical incisions also by scar formation. So the main cell type of connective tissue involved in repair is the fibroblasts cells. Okay, then the adipocytes or fat cells. Now you can see here there is a presence of considerable amount of fat in their cytoplasm. So you can see this big large fat droplet which is pushing the nucleus and the organelles of this and the cytoplasm in the periphery, and they may occur singly or in groups. So you can see here they are occurring singly here, or they are present in abundant abound in groups. In some places, adipocytes are accumulated in large amounts, forming a special type of connective tissue which is known as the adipose tissue. So adipocytes, they are large size cells about 50 to 150 micrometer in diameter. They are spherical or ovoid, but when they are closely packed, they appear polygonal, and 80% of the cell is occupied by a single large fat droplet, as I have told you before. Cytoplasm is reduced to rim. So you can see the cytoplasm, it is reduced to a rim which is present peripherally, and nucleus is also lies in the periphery. Now in his routine histological section, that is H&E section, fat is dissolved out and space occupied by it is presented by large vacuole. So in in routine histological sections, when we fix the slide, the fat is dissolved and leaving a large vacuole. And together with the peripheral nucleus and the rim of cytoplasm and the fat droplet, it forms a signet ring appearance. So signature ring, as you know, was used by the ancient kings to put signature on the important documents, and this the fat cells, they resemble this signature ring. So brown adipocytes. So there are two types of adipocytes: the white adipocyte, whose feature I have told you just now. Now the other type of fat cell is the brown adipocyte, and the fat present in the brown adipocyte is multilocular. You can see here there is no single fat droplet, rather multiple fat droplets. And so the white adipocyte, maybe it is unilocular, it is more common, it forms white adipose tissue, while the brown adipocyte is multilocular and containing many small fat droplets, and these cells are less common and they constitute the brown adipose tissue. Now the significance and the structure of the brown adipose tissue we will discuss when we will discuss the adipose tissue. So you can see here, this is the brown adipocyte with multilocular fat droplets in the brown adipose tissue. So macrophages are now the very important cells. Connective tissue macrophages called histiocytes. Now the connective tissue macrophages, they are also known as the histiocytes. They are found in loose connective tissue everywhere in the body, and in routine histological section, macrophages are difficult to distinguish from the fibrocytes. Because they are inactive, they have got smaller nucleus, they have got less processes, and nucleus of the macrophage is smaller and darker staining, so it resembles the fibrocyte. Active macrophages are those which are engaged in phagocytic activity. They are large, spherical or oval cells. So you can see here, this is an active macrophage and having diameter of about 10 to 35 micrometer, and nucleus is eccentric in position and kidney shaped in appearance, the nucleus. And cytoplasm is basophilic and it contains many small vacuoles and dense granules. So these granules contain the enzymes. Now electron microscopic appearance of macrophage. Surface of the macrophages are irregular, showing numerous folds and projections. So you can see here, this is a macrophage and the surface is showing numerous folds and projections, and these cells folds and projections enable the cell to engulf material and do the amoeboid movement. And the cytoplasm contains well-developed Golgi operators, prominent rough endoplasmic reticulum, and large number of lysosomes, and vesicles and residual bodies are also present in them. So you can here see the monocyte, which is the precursor form of this macrophage, and you can see the various processes. Active macrophage is containing a large nucleus, and the organelles in which the lysosomes, the rough endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi apparatus is well developed, and the macrophages are having abundant cytoplasmic processes. So these macrophages, they are the part of mononuclear phagocyte system, and the examples of other examples of macrophages which are present in other connective tissues of the other organs. For example, Kupffer cells. The macrophages in the liver are called Kupffer cells. The in the lung connective tissue, the macrophages are known as the alveolar macrophages or the dust cells, because they usually ingest the dust particles, dust cells. These are also known as dust cells. So, in the lymph node, the connective tissue macrophages, which are antigen presenting cells, these are known as the dendritic cells. Peritoneal macrophages, they are abundant in the abdomen, and the macrophages in the bone are known as the osteoclasts. While in the nervous system, the macrophages are known as the microglia. Histiocytes in the connective tissue, as I have told you, and giant cells. These macrophages, they combine at the granulomatous infection site, and they form cells which are known as the giant cells. So multiple cells, they combine and form the giant cells. And macrophages are also present in the maturing scar tissue. Mesenchymal stem cells, they are derived from the embryonic mesenchyme, and they retain the ability to divide. So this is how the cells of the connective tissue divide, and they are not seen in usual H&E section, and only the oval nuclei, they have got oval nuclei, prominent nucleoli, and fine chromatin. So these are the mesenchymal cells taken from the mesenchymal tissue, and may possess very thin process. So plasma cells are large ovoid cells, intensely basophilic. They have got intensely basophilic cytoplasm. So you can see here, they due to the presence of abundant rough endoplasmic reticulum, well developed Golgi apparatus, and the ribosomes, of course, because these cells make the antibodies, and antibodies are protein in nature. So these are the protein secreting cells, and they have got spherical eccentric nucleus, and the nucleus has typical appearance of cogwheel, cartwheel or cogwheel appearance, and they secrete antibodies, and they are derived from the B lymphocytes. So last is the mast cells. These are large ovoid cells. Now these mast cells are very important cells. They are about large ovoid cells measuring about 20 to 30 micrometers, and they are large they have got large secretory granules in their cytoplasm. So these are, you can see here, large secretory granules in their cytoplasm. They obscure the centrally placed nucleus also, and these granules, and there are few mitochondria, small amount of rough endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi complex, and special fixatives and stains are used to stain these cells, and their granules have the property of changing color known as the metachromasia, and these granules, they secrete mediators of inflammation, and they play a key role in development of allergic reactions. Cytoplasm, they have got cytoplasmic granules, and characterize cytoplasmic granules, they characterize the mast cells. As I have told you, here you can see it is full of the cytoplasmic granules. Owing to high acidity of the heparin in these granules, alkaline dyes undergo change in color, and this is known as the metachromasia, and this is unique to the mast cells and the basophil. The alkaline dye toluidine blue will stain secretory granules red-violet. So you can see here the secretory granules are colored red-violet. Now the leukocytes, these are, as you know, the migrant cells from the bloodstream into the connective tissue. Their number increase during the inflammation, and they include the neutrophils, eosinophils, lymphocytes, and monocytes.